I was babysitting alone when a man tried to force his way into the house. He said it was for gas safety, but he wasn't who he said he was. Back when I was a preteen, I used to babysit a lot. One day, I was watching two sisters. One of them was about 6 years old, and the other was just a baby. The 6-year-old had gone down to the street for a birthday party, so it was just me and the baby hanging out, watching TV. The parents had gone to see a movie, and about 30 minutes after they left, there was a knock at the front door. I got up and looked through the small windows. A man was standing there wearing a shirt with an Excel Energy tag and holding a clipboard. He told me he needed to come in to check the gas meter in the basement. Right away, I got this weird feeling that something was off. So I told him I'm just the babysitter. Give me a minute and I'll call the parents to see if they were expecting someone. I walked to the kitchen to grab the phone, and I also checked the back door to make sure it was locked, just in case. When I reached the mom, she immediately sounded worried and told me they didn't have an account with that company. She said they were leaving the theater right away. I went back to the front door and told the guy I would not be letting him in. He started acting a little pushy, saying it was urgent and he had to do a safety check. But I didn't see any company van outside, and that made me even more uneasy. Thankfully, the parents had called a neighbor who came over quickly and told the man to leave the property. As soon as the neighbor stepped in, the man took off and walked around the corner. Since no one saw what car he came from, we couldn't give a description. But when the parents got back, the police were called and I gave a full report. A few days later, the parents told me that someone matched his description had gone to another house nearby and tried to pressure his way in there too. I was just 11 years old, babysitting for our neighbor who was going through a rough divorce. She had 2 sons. One was 8 and the other was still a baby. Before leaving for her date, she told me she'd be back around midnight. She didn't say where she was going, and since this was the 80s, there were no cell phones, so there was no way to contact her once she left. I was watching TV while the kids slept upstairs. Everything seemed fine until there was a knock at the front door. Then it turned into loud banging and yelling. A man's voice was shouting the mom's name, calling her out angry and demanding to be let in. I froze, stared at the door, unsure of what to do. That's when the older boy came running downstairs, yelling, "Daddy's home," and headed straight for the door. I quickly grabbed him and pulled him back. Meanwhile, the man outside was getting more aggressive, still shouting and making loud threats from outside. I didn't wait any longer. I grabbed both kids and rushed them out the back door, straight to my house across the street. My mom was there and called the police right away. They showed up within minutes and found the man still outside, clearly in no state to be there. He was taken into custody, and I stayed at my house with the boys until the mom got back. When she finally arrived, she didn't seem too surprised by what happened. She just said thanks and mentioned she lost her wallet at the restaurant. So I never even got paid for that night. That was probably the most stressful babysitting job I've ever had. This happened about 20 years ago, so many of the details are a little blurry. I was in middle school, living in a quiet upper middle class neighborhood in a small suburban town where nothing really ever happened. I had just finished a babysitting course at a local hospital, and I was excited to start. After putting up some flyers around the neighborhood, I got my first job. It was just a 5-minute walk from my house. The family had 2 kids, an older girl who was probably around 8 or 9, and a toddler-aged boy. Their mom was super nice and walked me through their schedule and gave me a quick tour of the house. When we got to her son's room, she noticed something and said, that's strange. Why is his window open? She closed it right away and seemed kind of distracted after that. She rushed through the rest of the tour and told me to go hang out with the kids while she finished getting ready. About 2 minutes later, she suddenly came into the room and asked me to come outside with her. I was confused, but since I was a shy middle schooler, I just went along with it. When we got to the driveway, she pulled me aside and quietly explained that when she went back to her room, she realized a lot of her jewelry was gone. Right after she told me that, several police cars pulled up to the house. Officers jumped out and quickly took over the scene. One of them told me that it was okay for me to leave, so I headed home completely freaked out. Later on, I found out what really happened. Someone had broken into the house the night before, and they were still hiding in the closet of the little boy's room. The same room we had just been standing in earlier. I try not to think about what could have happened if the mom hadn't noticed that open window and decided to get us out of there. That ended up being both the beginning and the end of my babysitting career.